Hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. The next item is our agenda for today. Is there any objection to approving the agenda that has been presented? Hearing none, our agenda is approved by unanimous consent. We have a visitor with us today, Kathy Manus. Welcome. We're happy to have you from PSTA, always. Do we have any news media that we need to recognize? I don't see any other visitors. So again, welcome to our meeting. I do not have a report today except to say that I appreciate very much the flexibility that our educators and the parents and students show every day as we try to deliver the best instruction possible in a challenging pandemic time. So I'm always amazed at the work and flexibility that I see. I keep saying the word flexibility, but it truly is touching to see how our teachers go the extra mile and our parents to do the best we can for the children of our state to provide. Ms. Spearman, are you with us?
I am, Madam Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And hello to everyone. Just a personal point of privilege. I appreciate all the good wishes I've gotten from you all over the last 10 days. I am doing better. COVID is real, even with mild symptoms. It really affects you, and for me it's been mostly just a total energy drain, but I'm doing better, getting stronger every day, and as is my family. So thank you all, and we're looking forward to being completely over this soon. I do have my report ready. I've got several different topics that I want to just give you an overview on, and the first is one that is at the top of everyone's chart right now, and that is dealing with COVID-19 and the vaccine flow in South Carolina. And I am hearing some feedback. I don't know if that's because we've got so many mics open. Is that a problem in the room for you all? Are you hearing me clearly?
We can still hear you. I know the feedback you're referring to, but it's not loud on our side.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. And it might be helpful for those members while you're not speaking, if you're a panelist, if you would go ahead and mute your microphone, that may help. But I'll go ahead. The first chart, and I'll ask Ryan or Laurie if they'll show the chart there that we have to give you. I think you have a copy of my report at your desk. But for the public to see, this is a COVID-19 vaccine flow chart from DHEC, and it just gives an overview there as the predicted times when we would be moving from the different categories. Currently, we are in 1A. We were very happy that our school nurses were included in 1A, and there have been additional occupations that have been added just last week to 1A. That includes physical and occupational therapists, speech pathologists, audiologists, and athletic trainers who are assisting school nurses. Not all athletic trainers, but we do have many who are assisting school nurses with the COVID-19 testing. All of those folks are included in 1A and have been or can be vaccinated now. Our word is that has gone on across the state. We have notified school districts if they're having any problem with getting these folks vaccinated, they should let us know. We heard from 3 or 4 districts, and I believe those situations have been taken care of. So that still remains. If there's anyone who works in that category who has not been able to get a vaccine, they should notify us at the department, and we will get in touch with DHEC to assist you. Beginning tomorrow, January 13th, any South Carolina resident 70 or older, those folks are in 1B. They can begin making their appointments for the vaccine. This morning, I have sent a letter request to Governor McMaster and to Mr. Johnson and folks at DHEC, asking them that all educators be elevated as a top priority in 1B. Currently, there's a huge number of people in South Carolina in 1B, and absolutely everybody needs the vaccine. However, we are in a situation right now where we have school districts who were 5 days a week, many who want to be 5 days a week, and quite honestly, with the surge in cases, they are having great difficulty in staffing their schools. And I believe that due to the impact that not only this has on the academic and social, emotional issues for our students, the impact that it has on families across the state when schools cannot operate, I think that raises the priority of our educators, and they should be the top priority and be able to receive those vaccines now. So I have requested that from Governor McMaster, and we will see what happens. Otherwise, it will probably be a few days or even week or two before educators would begin being vaccinated. That is all very fluid. We held a meeting last Thursday with all district superintendents when they could ask questions of DHEC. At that point, there were a lot of unanswered questions. DHEC is working to get folks trained. Since that time, the National Guard has been added as a group who could provide the vaccine. I know DHEC is also working with private providers to increase the number of folks who can actually give the vaccine. So we are moving forward, but it's still not moving at the pace that I would like to see. And I also would like to see our educators as the top priority in that group of 1B constituents. So that's all happening. It's very fluid as we speak, and we will keep you all posted. The next question I think that's on folks' minds is, where are we as far as methods of instruction in the district? And you can see there on your chart, currently, as far as we know, and this changes daily because school boards are meeting and decisions are being made on a daily basis, really, as far as the ability for staff to work. We have 22 districts that are offering full face-to-face across the board for everyone, 22 districts. There are 32 districts that are offering some type of hybrid 2 to 3 days a week, and our number of virtual districts has grown to 28 districts. Many of those districts have announced even before Christmas that they would be virtual till the middle, toward the end of January, so that was no surprise. But there are others that are having to add virtual just because of the reality of them having so many staff who are affected. I'm still committed, and I ask our superintendents to be committed to getting face-to-face up and running, offering 2 models, a virtual model and a face-to-face model if they possibly can. And we are still committed to that as our primary goal. But reality-wise, we know it's a fluid situation that we're dealing with. You can see the map there with the and how much learning loss was there, what's going on. I still do not have a complete report because I believe to be accurate, not only from the information that we learned from the assessments that were given at the beginning of the year, we now are we're receiving the information from those assessments that were given when students left right before Christmas to see how well have we done. I hope that at your February meeting that we will be able to give you a report on that would include all of the districts that have participated in our Rally tool. That's about 24 districts with their map information. But I can tell you from information that we know and from also a report given yesterday at the Education Oversight Committee, and Dr. Mathis is going to comment more on that when he gives you a report, and we'll go into more detail. But we know that, number one of the shocking things was that there's more learning loss in mathematics than in literacy. While there's loss in both, but the mathematics has shown more loss. The loss, as we thought, would be more in earlier grades and in high proficiency districts and among high achieving students. There is still learning loss there as well. And even with students who do not have any disability, we're seeing learning loss. So it's very alarming, the amount of work that has to be done. Much of that is going on right now as we speak and went on during the first semester. And as I said, I hope we can have a good report for you in February on what we know about those assessments. The data shows that there's no difference in learning loss based on students' economic disadvantage or language status. It is clearly across the board. Now, the next thing I'd like to report to you on is where the legislature comes into session today and on what our legislative priorities will be this year and over the 2-year session. Number one, as always, is to ensure the safety and wellness of our South Carolina students and families. That's no different. It has a renewed emphasis with COVID-19. We are asking for additional funding to make sure that all schools have a school nurse and that we have a resource officer in every school. For school nurses, that's a little over $5 million. Our resource office, over $23 million. And I'm proud to say that Governor McMaster included those numbers in his budget as well. The second category for us to continue to work on is to recruit and retain teachers. The top issue, I believe, right now is the reinstatement of the 2% step increase that teachers were supposed to get for this year. That needs to be reinstated, and I do believe that school districts need an increase in their base student costs. We ask for around $50. That comes to a total of around $218 million for both of those. Thirdly, I believe that we have to guarantee access to a robust college and career readiness opportunities. We are not going to back down on the need to give more and better opportunities in career training and expanding career programs across the state. And we have asked for the funding for that. They're not going to back down on the request for instructional material. We need $100 million this year to catch up on instructional material needs to match the standards that have been set. That can be done with a mixture of recurring and non-recurring dollars, and I believe the General Assembly has the money to do that, so it will be a top priority for us. Continuing to expand on early learning and literacy through expanding our CERDEP programs and to push for the programs that we need to have in place to make sure that this learning loss is covered. That's through expanded interventionists, it's through expanded summer programs, and I believe time on task that students will need to be in classrooms more than we normally ask them to be. I'm very optimistic in the amount of funding that the federal government is sending to South Carolina to assist in this. We will hold a call with superintendent this Thursday to discuss this second amount of funding. It is substantial, 3 to 4 times the amount that districts received in the first bucket of federal funding. It has also been expanded in the categories that it can be spent. So clearly our districts will have funding to do some of the extraordinary work that has to be done over the next few months. And finally, you know that during my tenure, I have talked so much about school district efficiency and how we have to ensure that our school districts, the structure of those districts should be one that uses our taxpayer dollars efficiently, and that includes us taking a really hard look at their governance structure. So additional shared service, continuing our consolidation of administrative small districts will be a focus. And I am asking the General Assembly to give us additional funding to assist in those consolidations. So that concludes my report for you today. I know that was a lot of information. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I know that some of these areas we have other staff members who will be speaking to in more detail than I have just covered, but I'll be happy to answer any questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you so much for being with us, and we're glad you're feeling better each day. Do we have anyone who would like to ask Superintendent Spearman any questions? I don't see anybody unmuting, so you must have covered everything. Thank you again for joining us. We now have parliamentarian comments. Do we have anything that you'd like to share today, Ms. Hazelwood?
Yes, please. 2021, your statement of economic interest will need to be filed prior to March 30th. I will be sending a memo with all the directions, and then at the next meeting or the March meeting, I'll be happy to help anyone that needs to file. If you are on a suspended or your term has ended, but you are continuing to serve until your replacement is named, you are required to file if you are still a member on March 30th. So we have three members in that, and Mr. Whittemore, 4 members in that position. If you don't want to file anymore, then you need to resign, a letter of resignation to Superintendent Spearman. But absent that, I will help anyone in February, but I will be sending a memo to you with all the how to find your username, how to find your password, et cetera, after today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. That's always helpful when we get that email from you. And as I mentioned, we have a visitor with us today, Kathy Manus from the Palmetto State Teachers Association. We'd love to hear from you now.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. Can I take this off?
Of course.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. Happy New Year. I've been here a couple of times asking that when you have teachers who come before you for COVID-related issues because they've had to resign, that their certificate not be suspended. And I still hope that that will happen, but that's not why I'm here today. I'm here today to thank you. January is School Board Recognition Month, and Palmetto State Teachers Association would like to thank you, the State Board of Education, for what you do for the students and teachers in South Carolina every day. The theme this year is School Board Strong. Thank you for your strength this past year as tough decisions have been made and will continue to be made. It takes strong people to lead, and I'm so glad that each of you are in the positions that you are in. We have a small token of appreciation for you, and those of you who are not here, that you are virtual, this is waiting for you when you get back to Columbia. Again, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do, and I appreciate everything you do for students and teachers all across South Carolina. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Moving on to our State Board items of business this morning, we started with the Policy and Legislative Committee. We have one item that we heard that was for approval that involved online testing and the testing window extension waiver request by Ms. Jones. That item was moved to our consent agenda today for the full board. We also received information about school district waiver request from Sarah Longshore that involved accountability issues. Our next committee that met was Educator Professions, and I will recognize Dr. Johnson to talk to us about the work of his committee.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the committee approved 7 action items. 1, identification of critical needs subject areas for 21-22. Identification of critical need geographic areas, schools for 21-22. provider accreditation decisions for the University of South Carolina, Aiken, and North Greenville University. 4, South Carolina educator preparation guidelines, standards, policies, and procedures, educator preparation program admission requirements, initial and advanced level certification programs. 5, program modification for the University of South Carolina, Aiken Bachelor of Arts in Special Education, multi-categorical. 6, alternative route program approval, additional certification areas for teachers of tomorrow. And 7, approval of members to serve on the Professional Review Committee. The committee also heard one information item, the report on individuals certified through the South Carolina Teach for America program 2019-2020. The committee placed all of the action items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. The third committee meeting today was the Standards Learning and Accountability Committee, and that is Ms. Stapleton. Would you give us a report on your work?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. This morning, our committee had 0 approval items presented. However, we did have 2 information items that were presented to the committee. The first was an update on the cyclical review of South Carolina's accountability system. Mr. John Payne reported that the Education Oversight Committee, the South Carolina Department of Education, and a broad-based group of stakeholders worked to conduct a comprehensive cyclical review of the accountability system. This process will culminate in a report outlining findings and recommended actions to improve the accountability system and to accelerate improvements in student and school performance. And Mr. Payne, I believe, is with us virtually, and he was going to share an overview of what some of those recommendations were.
Mr. Payne, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. On Friday, you should have been sent a copy of the cyclical review, and I'm pleased that in this work we were able to engage with the National Center for Assessment, which is an organization nationally renowned in working with states in developing and amending and changing their accountability system. The advisory committee or the accountability committee really wrestled with a number of design priorities, such as how often or frequently do we change versus having stability over time? How simple do we want the system to be versus how comprehensive? And really thinking as well about, as we think about collecting new information or innovative information, balancing that with minimizing burden to school districts. The recommendations that came out of the committee fell into 3 categories. The first of which relates to revising the accountability system, specifically being attentive to develop and report information related to achievement gaps and having achievement gaps in some way influence school ratings. The second was to evaluate the current school performance rating to ensure they reflect clear, appropriate, and consistent criteria. The third was to consider changes to the graduation rate in college and career readiness. Currently, we use a 4-year graduation cohort, and while the committee felt that that was critically important, they also felt that it was important to give some credit to those school districts that graduate students in the additional 5th year. Not quite as much, with 4 still being the target, but to give some opportunities for those students based on their personalized pathways for completing their high school diploma in 5 years. And lastly, within the system, to allow career readiness credit to be given to qualifying students who earn the South Carolina High School Credential. It is a credential for students with disabilities because of the nature of their disabilities are unable to get a high school diploma, yet complete a robust and comprehensive program that includes career opportunities and apprenticeship internships that demonstrate that these students, based on their personalized pathway, are ready for competitive employment. The second area related to enhancing data collection and reporting, specifically with respect to ongoing monitoring and evaluation of our career readiness measures, and really research, develop, and implement a reporting initiative to better communicate for that. the third set of recommendations revolved around further research and development. For example, really thinking through developing not only academic but trans-academic, as the team styled, or measures related to social, emotional, mental, and the overall wellness of the student.
Mr. Payne,
Specifically-
Mr. Payne, when you
Yes.
look down to the left to read your notes, your voice comes in as clearly as possible. And then when you look up, you're garbled, you're going in and out. And we just missed some important stuff about children with disabilities.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, apologies on that. Thank you, Ms. Hazelwood. The back to the component that career readiness credit should be awarded to qualifying students who earn the South Carolina high school credential. Again, this is a credential awarded to students with disabilities who complete robust programs that demonstrate they're career ready, but who are, because of their disabilities, are unable to get a high school diploma. The second area relates around data collection and reporting, and the committee recommended ongoing monitoring and evaluation of our career readiness measures, as well as researching, developing, and implementing a reporting initiative to better communicate conditions for success. Lastly, the third kind of broad category was the recommendations for further research and development. And that included looking for alternatives for academic and what the committee styled trans-academic measures for students in kindergarten through 12 specifically, developing state guidance and standards for performance demonstrations that could count. So capstone projects, service initiatives, and research studies are examples. Thinking through and considering through assessments rather than end-of-year summative assessments. And of course, we have already begun work and looking at that and working with some other states. And assessing criteria for student progress, both in terms of general progress, but also in terms of English language learners to make sure that those growth expectations are appropriate. And finally, the committee felt that social sciences, particularly citizenship, isn't adequately addressed, and so they recommended additional measures perhaps for each grade. So with this report, our next steps will be to continue working with the Education Oversight Committee and other stakeholders because this report is at a very broad policy level, is to now take this work and begin diving into the weeds to determine when, how, why, how this would all look at the granular level. And as we do that, we will be vetting it by stakeholders and getting feedback and input from all stakeholders involved. Once that's done, that will culminate in a revised consolidated ESSA plan that will go out for public comment, as well as come before the state board and the Education Oversight Committee. I will point out that Dr. Cynthia Downs represented the state board during this work, and we certainly appreciate her contribution of her time and expertise. And Madam Chair, that concludes my summary of the recommendations from the report.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Payne before we move on? Okay, thank you, Mr. Payne. The second item we had for information was from the South Carolina Office of Career and Technical Education, and it was regarding the industry-recognized credentials. And we also have Ms. Angel Malone with us. I want to give a brief update first. Ms. Malone provided an update on the 2020-2021 industry credentials and the reorganization of the credentials into a stackable framework. Ms. Malone discussed the approved industry recognized credentials and the proposed timeline for the transition to stackable industry recognized credentials. And Ms. Malone is also with us to share some of that new information that she had this morning, and in case anyone had any questions regarding that. Are you there, Ms. Malone?
She can't unmute.
Ms. Malone?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I was in attendance mode and could not unmute. I apologize. Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to be with you to share with you about the Office of Career and Technical Education Industry Recognized Credentials. To preface that conversation, I shared some information previously so that we can understand the importance of the industry credentials. This past year, we had a graduation rate of 98.4%, which was a 3% increase from the previous year. And it validates the importance of students completing a career and technical education program, as well as receiving that industry credential that validates their expertise and skill set that says they're ready for industry. In addition to that, last year we had over 55% of our completers to attain an industry credential. And again, that not only allows them to go through the course and to learn the specific instruction, but they take that assessment and they're able to show that hands-on piece as well to demonstrate their skill set that says they're ready to not only graduate with that diploma, but also walk onto a job of value and in gainful employment. We also had almost 35,000 students that received an industry credential last year. The significant part to that is that students are now recognizing even more that credentials of value are important as they transition to the next thing in their life or the next phase of their life, especially in this time in our pandemic where we realize the importance of specific skill sets into attaining jobs. And then out of those students that actually took a credential, we had a 90% passage rate last year, which was a 2% increase from the year before. So we're excited about the work that we're doing and about how we are transitioning from just a listing of those career-ready credentials to a format that is stackable to show a student the trajectory that they should be on, and not only those students, but adults as well, to show them that trajectory that they should take to get to gainful employment. So for instance, in health science, a student may take a CPR assessment for that credential or basic life support, but we want to show in a continuum to say that not only do you get that credential, but also a CNA or phlebotomy credential, and then move on to an RN or an MD or anything in that nature. And so we want to show that trajectory to show them the pathway forward so that they can have gainful employment. For 2021, we submitted our industry credentials to the Education Oversight Committee. It was approved on December 15th, and it was also supported and vetted by not only our CTE leaders and instructors, but our business and industry stakeholders, to include the Department of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce, and our coordinating council, who all approved and supported these industry credentials. That list for this year contains 298 credentials, of which 15 credentials were deleted from the previous year, and 59 credentials were added in the areas of transportation and agriculture, which is our #1 industry within our state. As we shift and move forward to a stackable credential for 21-22, we are currently working on that format, and that format will include 3 tiers. Tier 1 will highlight those beginning of program credentials. Tier 2 will be those mid-program or in the middle of that program. And Tier 3 is that end of program or career-ready credential. The SREB, or Southern Region Educational Board, is helping us to facilitate those conversations with our CTE leaders, our post-secondary partners, our business and industry partners, and other important stakeholders. So we're excited about that work happening. And next year will be a transition year as we complete the work this year. So we're finishing that work and adding to those stackable credentials now, that framework. We will then put it out for public comment for a month in March, and then make revisions to that as those public comments come in from business and industry and other stakeholders. And then we will submit that to the Education Oversight Committee for approval in April. 2021-22 will be that transition year, with 22-23 being full implementation. And we will do that so that students can understand, again, the trajectory that they need to be on to not only graduate high school, but to have gainful employment and create that awareness not only for our students, but for our adult population that's looking for work as well. That ends my report. Are there any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Malone? Thank you so much, Ms. Malone, for providing that information. We appreciate it. And Madam Chair, we had no items to be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. I recognize Chair-elect Walters now to discuss the work of the Educator Licensure Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee met this morning. We heard 10 cases, and one case resulted in a public reprimand. The other 9 cases resulted in license suspensions. The ratification agenda was approved in the full board committee meeting. And I would just like to add that of the cases that we heard today, 2 of those cases were COVID-related, and we gave careful consideration, as we do in all cases, to those cases. But those cases were what is known as a default case. In other words, there wasn't a hearing before a hearing officer. There wasn't anything else additionally offered today. So the committee has to make its decision based on what's in the record and what's available. So just a little bit of background into how that decision-making process works, as it does in all cases. So, but certainly due consideration is given to any circumstances in these cases that could be mitigating factors.
And in the full board licensure committee, we heard 1 case involving a public reprimand, and again ratified the work of the committee based on the individual cases. You have a consent agenda that has been given out. 1 item is from Policy and Legislative for approval involving the waivers. 7 items come from the Professional Educator Division. And do we have a motion to approve that consent agenda?
I would make motion to approve that agenda.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor of the approving the consent agenda as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed votes? Thank you. Yes, Mr. Boots on.
I'm sorry, I was having muting problems. I support the motion.
Okay, I thought you were calling me. I'm sorry. I recognized your voice. So that motion to approve the consent agenda with the 8 items has passed. We have some information items now for the full board. Looks like 6 information items. The first is a literacy update with Dr. Mathis. Are you with us, Dr. Mathis?
Dr. Woodall, I'm here.
Welcome. Thank you for my
Thank you.
book.
You're quite welcome. As an update for a literacy update today, we are carefully analyzing data provided through our pre and post benchmark assessments so that we can accurately report the current level of performance levels of our students and the conditions that led to those results. As Superintendent Spearman said, we will provide a full report of those results in February that will detail the results in ELA and math, as well as the conditions that we think led to those results. Superintendent Spearman also mentioned a report yesterday released by the Education Oversight Committee with some results that centered around interviews conducted with teachers and administrators in 15 districts on the impact of remote learning, as well as academic recovery camp data and the conditions around that. And also data from a partnership that the EOC conducted with the Northwest Education Association on their MAP data. Additionally, the department is working with Education Analytics to take a deep dive into the analysis of our fall and winter assessments. To include the variations across the different tests that were administered, that would be, for example, MAP, STAR, iReady, math and reading inventory, and the MTSS screeners, and the variations among grade levels. We're also conducting an analysis of the impact of student and district factors that should be considered in making any results, information around those results. Dr. Whittle, I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure everybody's muted, and I don't know if that's causing a problem, but if you can't understand me, let me know. What we do know about the preliminary analysis is showing, as Dr. Superintendent Spearman said, a greater loss in math as opposed to reading. But regardless, as she said, there's much work to be done in both areas. And I think it's time that as we look at the data that we work systematically and as a system, as a state system, in developing a plan in how we can recover academically. And I think that needs to be support Superintendent Spearman's vision that needs to be a strategic and focused plan as we roll out the assessment results. But before we make quick assumptions of the results, it's important to look at all related factors and determine a path for enrichment and remediation. In addition to strong leadership and effective instructional delivery, an important condition for increasing student achievement and recovering academically is access to a viable curriculum for all students. And that's what I'd like to focus on just for the next few minutes of the literacy update. In an effort to determine what type of systematic changes need to be made, the Office of Early Learning and Literacy will be conducting an audit of reading and language arts materials in our Palmetto Literacy Project schools. And as a reminder, the Palmetto Literacy Project schools had 50% or more of their third graders scoring and does not meet on the 2019 ELA portion of the SC Ready summative assessment. In addition, we can provide training for any other district schools or districts outside of the initial focus of the Palmetto Literacy Project that would like to conduct a similar curriculum audit. This audit is a partnership with the Southeast Regional Education Lab. We call that REL Southeast. And a rubric has been developed and will focus on three key components in examining instructional materials. One is instructional design, which will include materials and their alignment to the ELA content standards, what type of scope and sequence is in the curriculum and the instructional materials, how are the lessons organized, and what student assessments are provided. Second, the audit will look at the content, or actually what is taught, which will include the 5 key components of reading instruction, which is phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. It will also focus on spelling, writing, and speaking and listening skills to make sure those are included in the curriculum. The third area is pedagogy, or how that is taught, to include direct and systematic instruction, scaffolding in the curriculum to assist students in reaching the goals of the lesson, differentiated instruction to provide instruction for those students who cannot meet the requirements of the curriculum, and also what opportunities are provided for feedback to assist students. The rubric that is developed that we'll be using is aligned to the What Works Clearinghouse research on the most effective ways to deliver literacy instruction. Once the review is complete, an important next step is to assist districts in developing the resources and materials that address their curriculum gaps. The knowledge of the curriculum gaps will provide the State Department of Education an opportunity to further develop resources that can be accessed through the Learning Object Repository. And Dr. Woodall, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Dr. Mathis?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
a couple of things. I'm wondering about the possibility of the EOC coming and making a presentation on the study that they talked about yesterday. I watched that meeting from afar, and I found the report to be at least sobering. I won't use the word stunning, but it was sobering, and I think it would behoove us all to hear it in some detail and be able to ask some critical questions about what they discovered and how they discovered it, and what the recommendations are for proceeding. So I'm wondering if we might be able to schedule them to come make that presentation.
Dr. Mathis, I would be also comfortable if you summarize that for us, however you choose to handle that. I do agree that that's important information we would all benefit from hearing, but I'll just leave that at your discretion to bring that to us at a future meeting date.
I'll be glad to, as well as the data that we're collecting through Education Analytics. I think both will be great information for our state board.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Bootson. Any other questions for Dr. Mathis? If not, we will move into our district updates with Kimberly Mack.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members.
Good afternoon. Will you be starting with Allendale?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So during December, Allendale County School District hosted several professional development sessions for administrators and teachers regarding curriculum, socio-emotional learning, assessment and data, and technology. And 3 Allendale Fairfax High School students earned CTE certifications, 2 students earned OSHA 10 certifications, and 1 student earned the National Institute of Automotive Service Excellence certification. Moving to Florence School District 4, Rockington Elementary students completed their mid-year assessments. The K-5 students used Linkit. K through 2 used STAR Early Literacy, and grades 3 through 5 completed reading and math inventory assessments. The Johnson Middle School students showed improvement in reading and math inventory assessments that were administered mid-December. And evidence of growth was definitely shown for those students who participated in targeted interventions. They identified a group of students, they worked with them outside of the regular classroom hours. In Williamsburg County School District, the Office of Finance submitted its annual audit on December 1st, 2020, and there were no findings related to financial statements or federal awards. And the district established a student support center that includes clothing items, instructional supplies, leveled reading books, and personal hygiene products that were donated by local agencies and nonprofit organizations to support the McKinney-Vento students. This concludes my report.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Mack?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
having just heard a little about the assessment that the EOC presented yesterday, I'm curious as one of the things that was most sobering to me is that there's been a decline in performance among every student group. Now, the gap hadn't increased, and so that suggests to me that everybody's not doing as well as they were. So my question is, in Allendale and Florence 4 and Williamsburg, I hear we're making progress, but how far behind are we still in those 3 districts?
And that's a good question. I'd have to get that information to you at a later date if that's acceptable.
Yes.
That's certainly acceptable, and I would suggest that you might want to make that a regular part of your report. That's just from a suggestion from me, but yeah, however long it takes you to get it together. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Ms. Mack, those are interesting items. I imagine that those reports would be based on what data you have available to you and the timeliness of the information that you have. But periodically, I think that that's a good suggestion to share from the world of literacy. So thank you again for that. And we have Mr. Strother, who's here to report on Clarendon. Clarendon School District 1.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, guests. Thank you for having me. This is an update of the financial management takeover of Clarendon 1 School District, which was approved by the State Board of Education on October the 15th, 2020. I have previously reported that the state, to the State Board of Education, that David Lodeholt, the contract CFO for the SDE, is working with the South Carolina Retirement System, the IRS, and the South Carolina Department of Revenue to settle the liabilities to those systems, which originally was about $1.3 million of liabilities to those systems. An update to that is that Mr. Lodeholt continues to work with the retirement system to settle that liability. As of today, no payment has been made towards that liability, and that's roughly $800,000. The retirement system wants to assure all quarterly reports are filed and up to date. He is working on that process as we speak. The IRS obligation has been paid in full. That was around $425,000. That has been completely paid in full. The obligation to the South Carolina Department of Revenue has been paid in full, which was around $125,000. The next item, and what I normally report, is the cash flow information. After receiving the cash flow information for December of 2020, the cash flow deficit at the end of June 30th of 2021 is projected to be $1.1 million in cash deficit. So that, of course, is coming down slightly as we go through the months. And some of the reasons for that is, of course, there's a spending freeze in effect, which is in effect reducing the accounts payable cost month by month. There are open positions that are not being filled, and some of the open positions which savings have occurred include an assistant superintendent of special services retired on 11/30. The district is currently paying a stipend to Clarendon 3 to cover these services until consolidation happens. Transportation between the two districts was consolidated as of 1/1/2021. A vacant HR position remains unfilled, with the HR duties being handled by Clarendon 4. A Medicaid clerk position became open and will not be filled. Clarendon 2 is sharing music teacher so that the band students at Clarendon 1 can continue to receive instruction. So those are some of the reasons that we see this reduction in the cash flow deficit. The department will assist with the assistance of David Lodeholt, has identified expenses that will be shifted from the general fund to the CARES ESSER funds received by the district. Also, the Clarendon 1 superintendent has submitted a proposal for the reduction of staff expenditures. Measures to help reduce the deficit are continually being discussed, and the South Carolina Department of Education Finance Department, me, will visit Clarendon 1 weekly to examine federal expenditures and assist in the filing of these claims to make sure that full utilization of those federal funds are being made and that we are claiming those funds completely. So that's an important visit. I'll be going in there about once a week initially. And finally, Clarendon 1 Board of Trustees is being updated monthly on the financial condition of the district. And also, the State Board of Education is being updated monthly on the financial condition of the district as well. This concludes my presentation and report, and I will open for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Strother. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we will move on to the quarterly review of the fiscal year budget. Is that Ms. Williams? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and other members of the board. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to provide a very brief overview of the state board's annual budget as of December 31st, 2020. As communicated in prior months, the state board's annual budget is $58,034. At the quarter ended December 31st, we were 50% through the fiscal year, and $19,248, or approximately 33% of the state board's total budget, was expended. Specifically, $8,779 was expended for hearing costs in the portion of the budget that's dedicated to assisting with the cost of teacher cases. As it relates to the operational component of the budget, $10,469 was expended for per diem and travel-related costs for the months of October, November, and December, those state board meetings, as well as the cost of the awards that were presented at the December board meeting. Overall, you're in good financial standing, and we will continue to monitor your spending patterns throughout the remainder of the fiscal year. Madam Chair, I'm available if there are any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Williams? Are there any other questions or concerns from any board members here or on our virtual attendance? Thank you all for being with us today. Thank you, staff, for helping us with our agenda. And remember to turn in any paperwork that was given to you by Noel before you leave today. If there's no other business, I declare us adjourned for January.